So excited. Jumbo, Jumde, Dende, Jumbo, Jumbo, Yandambo, Bobe, Sangere, Boda, Chasu, Dembo, Ever, Sheva, Dembo, Evo, Live, Galo, Livo, Lana, Meva, Adam, Minange, Tumba, Sange, Jumde, Pegawa, Sega, Duva, Shata, Mushu, Gazu, Sheo. Jumbo, Jumde, Jumbo, Rajumbo, Yanda, Zobe, Tangere, Chantu, Demo, Delore, Chemo, Jizin, Kimbo, Kibo, Luve, Balu, Yupa, Rumba, Zange, Jumde, Debe, Zanga, Dupa, Jumde, Jin, Shemban, Rajum, Yanda, Zobe, Sangere, Boda, Chantu, Demo, Delore, Chemo, Jizin, Kimbo, Kibo, Luve, Kalu, Yupa, Lana, Meba, Lada, Medange, Tomba, Sange, Jumde, Debe, Yawa, Bala, Jande, Lo, Jago, Jaze, Ante, Gani, Dum, Gedam, Ze, Sajin, Sila, Goba, Dumbo, Ne, Nani, Jidin, Dina, Jode, Ze, Keba, Kela, Shala, Nanda, Go, Chodu, Zuzan, Ishi, Yasko, Terge, Humbunda, Baba, Jibe, Zona, Lame, Wa, Gemu, Juni, Yula, Yo, Damba, Jime, Dawe, Selu, Tama, Kela, Dükkan Kela, Siva, Suma, Nyame, Jinjin, Kela, Wombo, Tüji, Jedemba, Tamji, Kimbe, Tumba, Sana, Yönden, Gazı, Jin, Dejin, Kela, Tabe, Döca, Ceva, Gürü, Geve, Gün, Sonde, Cibü, Döna, Cögür, Başı, Kela, Lava, Dala, Raptun, Çingir, Damba, Yendin, Gendur, Layan, Çaz, Vipacı, Amicacı, Geva, Kunsun, Sopargir, Rangi, Sene, Yonsudu, Dene, Sangi, Dimbayım, Kamarları, Malmeda, Gümasya, Başı, Burada, Melon, Dodan, Tindavu, Düzü, Jamandı, Dada, Dene genci radyoda gadan nadan sibe lapşupe sibe solen joan. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, nor of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Your immaculate 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, the dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, do your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Geze canju zemba zemba jimbo baba jeneze wancho sheragi bharu jimbo samu jimbo nila number tajing bumbo mabo de da la yara jinji tomba number tavo dene sangi kitu sedan demba shari canju zemba zemba jimbo baba jeneze wancho la tige jime so vige bu ganla la sheragi bharu jimbo samu jimbo choba toba de ida la parja dige jime bana canju zemba zemba jimbo baba jeneze wancho sedan demba shari da bola dige jime so shari bu rigi bu rigi bu mo ganla la sheragi bharu jimbo samu jimbo choba toba de ida number tower shade bumbo ngapo de da yang rangi de tomba number ya da parji da tomba ni susto tomba ni jemai tomba ni le jasu jemai de jindu sorwa da de jeda number shepa na tomba o shari bu de da jindan de tomba ni de sini me ba ma ke ba ma ga ba sima me ba sima da chewa me ba gangwa me ba o Cherebo de da wena tomba ni la zugme sorba me duje me number sheba me migme nawa me name cheme lume ime zugme jame cheme rome rejame chume lo mege kame bane ige kame ige number shebe kange batu yame do mari ba seba me kashi sebe batu yame do ejindu tomba wadan kunjung wadan kopadan lame yeshi me toba me Toba ya me do shari bu de da wena janju semba na toba me be chir sherab ki paru de chemba la tenjin ne de semna cheba ne chaba me de chinje lo le shindu de ne yang de har chindu tuzun do na ba shu be sangye dam de gan sherab ki paru de chemba na de ne la na me ba yang da bar so be janju tu mo bar so bar sangye de da wena sherab ki paru de chemba ha re ba chendu ha la na me be ha Binyam badanyam benga, tonga tamjera du shivar chibenga, mizun vaina jaba shivar chate shirake baru du chimbenga, me bataya da, gate para sangate buddhi yari bu chanju samba samba shimda shirake baru du chimba sama la bar chavo, dene chomdene dingin zendele shingchen, chanju samba samba jimbo baba chere se wanju la leko, shijawa jine leko riki Dede shindo, dede shinde chira chuchi demba shindo, shira ge paru tu chimba samola shebara cha dede shin sheba na pyate su yiramo. Chomde dege dege je ka, dene sedan demba shara da debu don chanju samba samba chimbo baba chiri se wanchu kan samshi kan dembe kuru de da dan adam mi dan ama yi dan disa chibe chi de yiran se chomde dege sumba la ngumbare te. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formation, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristic. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these, all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these, all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond. And because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in 3 times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra, great insight, the unsurpassed, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Oh Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said. And then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, men, and gods and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
원이 받으는 건 비싸요. 마스. 아니면 람림 진다. 같이 주 람지를 봐서니까 이거지 뭐 취업을 하니까 아주 뒤받치 뭐 취업해라. 야치를 람지를 봤어요. 아무 람지를 봤으니 예배나네. 다 야치를 람지를 봤어. 되니까 주는 사치시 참주 람림 진다. 아무도 지이 어려서
This morning is Sunday morning, so we resume the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. This text concerns the path to awakening. It is of Mahayana scriptures, which entail the scriptures of the extensive practice and the profound view. Among those scriptures of the extensive practice, sublime among them. And so we resume our Sunday morning listening and exposition of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment.
남샤도 시기요 레스제는 되는데 다 단다 티버 친구를 남쉐 티버 친구들 임 차발라다 그 간사 티버 친구 저거 간사 티버 친구 생 차발라 아니 꿀웅 엄마 꿀웅 줘야 돼 아니 티버 친구 꿀웅 줘 투버지 고요 레스 다 티버 친구 꿀웅 줘시디 아니 다 가르스나 아니 다 장이 쉐니시 제바디 아니 장이 세디기 아니 개뱅이 지도로 마소 대야 랑이 지도 랑이 개뱅이 지도 마소 아니 즉 시행을 펜바 시행 권의 지도로 펜베 지도로 섞고는 복제바 주나 아니 다 아니 대과침을 고는 줘봐서 자기 어려서
Now, as one listens to the Mahayana Dharma, as one explains the Mahayana Dharma, whether this is in conformity truly with the Mahayana depends upon primarily the attitude of the teacher and of the listener. Whether it is involved in the Mahayana or the foundation vehicle depends upon this. So distinguishing the Mahayana vehicle is the Mahayana person, the Mahayanist. And defining the Mahayanist is their intention and attitude. And what is required for the Mahayanist intention and attitude? An absence of any preoccupation with profit in this life, and for one's sole purpose to be to benefit others. This makes for the Mahayana intention.
모두시다 안다리 냠내 디바침 간사 디바침 최 디바침 생기다 고기야레스 제다다 냠내 디바침 차와라 당보 간사 디바침 차와라 간사 디바침 차와라 고kulung 돈에 디바침 소वर 아니 디디 중앙이나 최 디바침 생기 차고야레스.
There it is then that the practice of the Mahayana requires the Mahayana Dharma. The Mahayana Dharma requires the Mahayanist. So the practice depends upon the person and the person upon the intention. So one conforms accordingly.
아니 대한 제바 대한 아니 즉 아마 산지지 고관토백이 귤을 줘 아니 신도 자침을 주야게 되는 기도 이 삼을 고롱 되지 거네 아니 셈바이나 아니 죄 년바디 시로 납치 못한 거 친구 그래서.
Then it is in the listening and the exposition of the Mahayana Dharma that the objective is to develop the awakening of the Mahayana, that the listening and the exposition of the Mahayana Dharma become cause for final awakening, for complete and perfect enlightenment. And so then to commit oneself entirely to the well-being of others, and for this to inform one's intention. When this happens, the blessings are tremendous.
예, 장주 남주 림바스에 들어다 개체부 가려서다 장주 남주 림바스인데 아니 도만이야 되다 나도 장주 남주 림바 무시 냠내 쳐야 원조 냠내 쳐야 되는데 그다 뭐 되게 여러 세상인데 다 단단한도 원조 냠내 쳐야게 다 무시 장주 그 셈을 로버 쳐버려 원조 딜을 로베를 차진 아니 저에 쳐출로 로버들 저에 쳐주고 나네 다 맞아 최 당부 라게 잘 냠내치자리 내가 때 담아서야 제자를 아니 내가 나는 최고야 되게 찾아지 때 라게 돼서 때에 찾아 아니 내가한테 찾아지 다네 대로 제외 치도로다 대네 아니 다 냠내가 치고 유명했던 나라다 소신 세답에 이거도 어디가도 시행이 어려서.
Now as we listen and explain the Buddha Dharma, its profundity and constructiveness is based upon an organization of preparation and an actual meditation, the actual undertaking itself of the development of the mind of awakening. But in order for this to occur, first preparatory practices are developed, and we are now, with our purpose of developing the mind of enlightenment, occupied with the 6 preliminary practices. And these involve first arranging one's environment in an orderly and clean way, and then adopting the proper posture. And then comes the actual practice that involves petitioning the merit field.
된적이 치도라 아니 조직 세다 봤을 때 제가 개체부 이유가 거기 쉬사를 했어요. 당연히도 총도 마서는 마서 춘주직도 계산 첨부해야 아니 즉 거기 간다 실내 되면 되면 이번에야 사회 유지 때문에 제부 망부 탑이야 그러고 잡아 나신 전에 이런 거라도 다 냠내 제야 돼야 냠내 되게 뒤뒤뒤 갈래시라 잡먹고 왜 돈에 아니 왜냐면 또 거기를 제야 합시지 보고 이유가 얘도 아니 소신 세트 생각들라 소신 거기 속이 신고면 아니 또 거기를 제야 탑상 휴지 근데 속이 여러 송
At this time, at this moment, as we practice the Buddha Dharma, it is a degenerate age of Kali Yuga. And for that reason, we mustn't delay, and wherever we can, we must circumvent unnecessary hardships so that we may experience the immediate blessings of practice. And this may be achieved through reliance upon the merit field. And for this reason, I have reiterated its importance. It is important in the way that an intelligent investment of small capital can yield big profits for a person. A few seeds planted in fertile ground can yield a bountiful harvest. The objective then here is that in a short time, avoiding unnecessary hardship, we will find great results through reliance upon the merit field. Reliance upon the merit field develops in us, in our minds, realization.
근데 이제 아니다만 소신 세다겠다. 그다 여기 소비신 계단. 아니 가와이 계고 이미 차단 수차레스. 잡으랬다. 소신 거든가도 소비신 계디 저 가르스나 저 탐직 맞지. 아주 단다 이게 권마기 원래가 탐직 셈바 당무마다 되고 이마 아sam바 숨직전에 기억도자마 담보 담직 선바제네 이시 선바제 엔딩 선바제 오르와 제다다 다다 소신 조이제야디 조조제 라마로상 통화들이 창제 엔티기 소신나 가리유메 되게 차단 기기요다 되게 깨야 되게 가가 또 가리자 알아보나 담직 선바 야 담직 선바 계단 지조제 쉬고요 세단 소신도 세 차단 따서들 아니 뒤다 담직 선바되게 차단 세팅된 세 차트와지 디지털로 차트와지 고기가 돼서 야 드셔
Involved in petitioning the merit field is the technique itself, the arrangement of the individuals involved, and the arrangement of the individuals in the merit field is done through the triple vajra, or the triple sattva. The triple sattva is the commitment being, and the wisdom being, and the samadhi being. These are the three. And primarily, we have been occupied with outlining the person of the commitment being, who is the Guru Losang Shakyamuni Vajradhara. This is the commitment being, and the technique for visualizing the individual has been our main focus, that the individual appear clearly to us.
대다 고슴 도지송데 혼유로 세자 이세 대단 대다 고슴 도지송데다 조신들랑 또 가진 뭐 주지서 뭐 주지 나라는 대세만 반지 거샤이와 대단다 주종소모 막에 주종소모 보칸도 되는 년도 단계 장주선바 산제 아니 되네 이담 규디시 되네 달라마로서 공도 저도 마음을 깨야 되도 강가로 아니 가리고 와서 라마로서 공도 장 그다기 구송투 도지송이 오마 아웃송데 사르데 이미지 고고레스 다르르르 다 가지 깨이나 데르르라 구도지 송도지 투도지 좀 바꿔야 돼 아니 이게 뭐 교수님 삼아서 전과레스 어디 쟁거스 내 쟁거야지 아니 가래스나 아니 되게 나도 소식이 나라 다 가질 셋답 이유가 있나요? 저쪽 세마나 셋답 이유가 있나요? 근데 한적 상마도 아니라말로선 동안 도지사는 뭐지 임바 이제 아니라말로선 동안 도지사기 받는 주네 아니 주 뭐데 라말로선 도지사 임바 아니 남배 돈에 받을 주네 망고 이유가 되지 거야 간다 아니 어머 아무 순지 이거 순지 그거 그래서 도지 숨 이거 숨 거고 어디 도지 숨 거야 어 그 도지 숨 도지 또 도지 숨
Now, as we looked at the final lines, all are marked at their three doors with the three vajras. Light rays with hook-like tips emanate from their home syllables. These individuals with these markings at their three doors are those individuals arranged as we have described in these 11 tiers, different sections. They are the Dakas and the Dakinis, Shravaka Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Buddhas from the Tantras. And each and every one of them is marked with the triple Vajra of body, speech, and mind, Vajra body, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind. And the purpose of this marking is to identify clearly that they are a unity with the individual of the Guru, Lozang, Shakyamuni, Vajradhara, and in the clarity and multitudinous variety of the merit field, each and every individual is marked by these three so that it is equally clear that they share in the essence of the individual of this person and that they are all emanations of this person, this individual. Thus the significance of Om Ah Hum, marking each. These are the triple Vajra.
뭐 세상 다 도지 숨 생에 아니 산지 다 산지 코네 유된 차다 산지 계주 제가 꾸도지 송도지 도도지 되게 사변도도 가르나 어머 아 홍순제 이 모두 계획 수행도 사변 얘기 숨체 어디를 도지 숨제 어디를 계획이 아니 산지 투모 산지 군조보다 유대 투모 많이 차다 어디를 이리 아니 소식이 나왔다 만에 다 간말라마 유베 되는 산지 장사 어디지 참아 아니 라말로산 통화 도지 장기 대가라 넘버 2네 아니 동마다 추종다 가리 넘버 땡기는 되게 쭈가 되게 때마디 아니 먼저 다 간다 남주 임바 시고 같이 아니 냠네디 가레스나 됐다 대가가 아니 샘버 숨지기 다니진 녀고가 시에 치도다 아니 어디 이기디다 도저선 듣고 오고 열해서
Thus, the triple Vajra indicates that each individual shares equally in the uncommon qualities of all Buddhas, and the Om Ah Hum as syllables are seeds generating the three Vajras themselves, Vajra body, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind. These three Vajras, Vajra body, speech, and mind, are the uncommon, extraordinary qualities of the Buddhas. And so all involved in the merit field, every lineage holder and every Buddha on every tier and the rest, all the way down to protectors and all of those guardians and the rest, each and every one, so that it is understood that they are emanations of the single person, having all sharing in all the essential extraordinary qualities of the Buddhas are marked this way with the triple Vajra.
Oh yeah. 이제 공고 이제 그다 남바샤는 공고야다 이제 남바체 고야디 아니 또 가리어스나 아니 초신도 초신 세트도 좀 아니 초신라야 아니 처음에 초다 매게 되게 또고 맞게야 아니 초신 깨버디 할을 누가 첨부 지럽 첨부 누가 첨부 게 두야게 전달라 아니 어떻게 그 세버스는 공부를 해서
The purpose of the markings upon each individual, but each person involved, the need for it to be clear in the visualization is that in the petitioning of the merit field, so that there be no variation in the efficacy of the blessing received from the field, that it always be efficacious, always be potent and powerful, all are marked in this way.
다 근데 소신이 다 소신은 안에 라게 다 나몰이야. 즉 반다 간세세 세보지는 세다고 쇠도에 소신도 아니 이제 바로 맞아봐 세보지는 세다에 개치 묻지 그랬어. 소소게 뭐 라마 다간다 뭐지 라마로서 본도리 장 임바 나바 아니 지금 하다를 왜 저와 시와다 하고 라마도 소마 최종다 기뉴가 나바데 여바 어디데 세트 간세세지 아 세다베티 아니 땡이지 미과 세부 요하게 쳐버 뜻체 아니 어디데 쳐버 두달 아니 거 간세세 세다 해서
So as one petitions the merit field, the inward picture, the inward visualization ought to be as vivid and clear as possible. There should be as little mix-up as possible. So this is one critical aspect of the practice, that there be no confusion regarding the shared essence of the Guru, Losang, Shakyamuni, Vajradhara, pervading all persons in the merit field, pervading all persons in the merit field in their wrathfulness and pacificness and the Sangha aspect and the aspect of the protectors and the rest. That they be as clear, pictured as clearly as possible, becomes cause for the object of mental concentration, samadhi itself, being clear.
예, 다들 나올 세다 왔다 투바지. 아니 명언 수족을 삼로 땅 명언 제한 디디더티 아니 지금 수요샤요 저거다. 하게 지 많이 버지 이버 수요샤가 된데 저거다. 아니 지금 수족 쓰는 도바사다 되네 많이 봐. 명언 디디더티 뭐이 삼바지. 몇번 땜부치 오래스 몇번 땜부치 가다 이 강압에 삼로 땅에다 기들 라마로산 통화도 남중은 이삼바 대한 하트다 대랑 임은 이삼바 되게 몇번 땜부치 해야 돼. 내가 쳐보지를 해서 거지.
In the essence or nature of the visualization, that the essence be felt, sensitively felt to be not artificial and not contrived, but real, not cause for doubt, but cause for certainty regarding its reality, that there be sensitive perception of the essence of the persons, that they are actual emanations of this individual, is another critical aspect of the technique and practice.
야, 다스 속에 내가 생원자 보세. 다디네 대배육 수수 대배 몰라. 생문하는 배 당도 구배집에 대배 몰라. 아니原来 표준수가 주시스면原来 표준 써봤으면 다만서 뒤 배딩에 겹모디 이 사마 배틀랑이 겹쳐봐 있나 아니랑이 되게 탐지 대화 탐지 두두고 요다 동해 탐지 세 두고 요다 근데 배 차상 뭐봐 이제 배 대배고는 이제 뒤시 기억을 해서 뭐 뒤시 기억을 해서
In addition, the aspect of entire conviction, confidence in the mind regarding this being the actual refuge, the actual protection, that this in actuality carries out the well-being of sentient life, eradicates pain, and establishes beings in lasting contentment, that it has this ability, conviction, faith, a sense of sureness regarding this too is critical.
다티 나 야매지도 뭐 뒤주인지 고요다 근데 라는 쳐버대 내가 치는 제가 인도 아니 디다 네 나몰 아니 그 세버지 세타고 수수 미벌지도 미벌 세버지는 거 세타가 이거 직체 명월라 랑기 디데 등모이 오늘 백배가 백모이 삼배 안다게 랑기 소신 통대 되게 뭐 배가랑 이 삼바체 아니 대배 몰라 되게 담아랑이 껴 뭐ပဲ뭐 이제 그랑 내가 더 타도 탐지를 겹투게 겹유 타도 빈 산에 뭐 받치야 뒤순디 아니 제토가 있나 아니 다 랑이 또 받게야 뭐 받치 못 차야 돼 괜찮은 상황을 해서
In the practice of the Mantrayana, these three are critical. And as this presentation, as I am sharing it, is connected with the Guru Puja, it is a Mantrayana practice. And so the appearance aspect, that the appearance be vivid and clear, so that the object is clear, is critical. Following this, that the essence be understood as the actual essence, as an actuality and reality, that one reflects this is actually it. That which I see is actually what it is. And third, that conviction, the conviction that that which one sees is the actual refuge, both in its temporary and ultimate regard. Conviction and sureness regarding this, along with the preceding two conditions, make for supportive conditions for rapid development of realization.
딱 이게 있으면 세트업 좀 세고 예가 가네 딱 가르쳐서 랑이 딱 땡이지 뭐 두가 땡이지 뭐 홍요와 땡이지 뭐 홍네 홍이 있었네 왜 춘주시 봐 저는 다른 거 얘기지 아니 질로 봐왜 망고 저这里 홍이 있었네 这里 보고시 아니天봐 보고시 아니 네 산지기 신경 탐지라 봐왜 봐 잡아지 아니 왜 대배 저규 넘버 도지 아니 산지 저규 넘버 도지 되게 아니 산지 탐지기 아니 고순 도지 제가 탐지 왜 넘버는 주 뒤니 아니 주 팀네 다 단다 계시죠 탐지 셈버 소신 뜸 거라서 때문에 아니 소신 이하 가져이만 뒤에 탐지로 소신 차상화를 뜬투고 그래서
Then in this clarity and certainty, in the midst of each clarity and certainty is this samadhi being the syllable hum. Isn't that right? And the hum syllable itself is the finest light. And that finest light radiates outwards into denser and denser rays of light that become broad and dense and pervade the world. And each has what appears to be a hook that travels outward and hooks in the blessings of body, speech, and mind of all innumerable Buddhas and draws these back, the blessings back into the clarity of the merit field with each of its individuals, and the blessings of body, speech, and mind drawn in by this hook dissolves entirely into each and every individual of the merit field.
오야다 그냥 바다도 되는 바데 시기를 빼서 산지 신경 망고 여러와 다음에 대화적인 신경 여러 되네다 제레스기 신경을 드레메 신경 여러다 신경도 주가 야를 세다 이게 강화를 왜랑 도관을 왜 두교디 땡이지는 왜 두교디 어디게 가 되게 질러도 누드 탐지 안자 유고 남아서 왜 되네 알랑이 또 땡이지 삼바 송이 들어 주팀 제대로 딱 파티는 홍이 파트 아니 주 뒤치야다 제마 땡이지 쟁장 미고 연하면 다 주차를 해서
Now there are innumerable Buddha fields. There are Sukhavati and the Buddha field of Tara and Lokeshvara and countless others. The syllable Hum radiates fine light that grows expansive and draws in the blessings of body, speech, and mind of the Buddhas in these innumerable Buddha fields, and the blessings are drawn back into the syllable Hum. And then again, the syllable Hum radiates light, fine light that becomes expansive, and then that light is, as blessing, is drawn back in. And this exercise is an exercise in developing an aptitude for samadhi.
오야 다 담지 템바 되게 깨차 요인자다 담지 템바디 깨차는 다 플라가니바 가르쳐 버려야 되나 다 담지 템바디 다 젠차는 다 외세디게 바로 거기 가르치는 요새 되게 파편 담직 선바도 출전하는 아니 이시 선바도 때문에 어떻게 냠내 제도라 어디 쪽이 열어서
Now, when the commitment beings are visualized, then the following step is of inviting the wisdom beings through the descent of the wisdom being into the commitment beings. So the wisdom beings are drawn into the commitment beings to invite the commitment beings entirely.
다 담직 선바 젠 다 저주 측이 가려서는 뒤급돼요. 근데 말로 심지 분지 권주지 뒤대 분지 메시지 정도는 원하는 말을 던도 그런데 한다 좀 되면 좀된 거지 내 시수 측도 다디 이시버 젠 저주 측들이 해서
Then in the ornament on the throats of the fortunate ones, text concerned with the 6 preliminary practices, the verse for the invitation of the wisdom beings speaks in this way: Savior of all beings without exception, divine conqueror of the terrible demon host, who knows all entities truly and completely, O Bhagavan, please approach together with your retinue.
다 이제는 젠제 이시버 젠자를 젠젠 다야 다 젠제 젠지 쉬어야겠다 어제는 변쇼 당세가 미페로시 라고도 어디서도 담지버 이시버디 마 젠자는 젠제스키 찍대 어디 뒤래세 다 디기 가르스나 다 이시버 젠자고 이시버 마 젠자 아니 담지서 때 물어왔잖아 근데 이제 좀다 젠젠디 아니 이시버 젠자 아니 담지버 temple 해서 temple 해서
So this is the invitation of the wisdom beings. Just as we invite guests, we say to them, you are invited, and then this is the invitation. So too, the wisdom beings are invited to the commitment beings that they may dissolve into the commitment beings. So this is it. This is how it's spoken here. This is our technique here to invite the wisdom beings that they descend and dissolve into the commitment beings.
난 that's 무지가 나 수정 먼저 젠제 치고야지 가서나 먼저 단다 셈 땡이지 줄에게 요 말이 아니 셈 뭐가 때문에 요 말아 그다음 해봐 인도 젠 템바이나 아니 뭐가 때문에 요하다 아니 땡이지 칠로 막줄 도배야 근데 개발 요 근데 차네 레 담보라 젠제 제 숨고 요레스 양 이제 뮤직 젠제 마치는 양 되게 요레스.
Now, one way of looking at the invitation of the wisdom beings is to understand it in terms of the yet undeveloped sensitivity of our samadhi. We haven't yet achieved any sensitivity in our samadhi. So that there be more sensitivity, we invite these wisdom beings so that they carry with them a blessing, a sense of their efficacy that it may be sensible to a beginner.
이제 제목을 가르스나 아니 랑 뭐가 템포 유나 땡이지 매바 땡이지 유나는 셰모로 왔다 그 셰가 땡이지 매바 이나 뭐가 템포 유나 젠제 마치는 디그레스 가르스나 아니 도그나라 간디송이었으나 아니 강기 뭐가 또 제가 데이트는 투바 슈스 수로 마 수수 대바다 뭐가 유나 아니 상계 대가 가수수 강의는 대가 상계 유여가 했어.
The invitation of the wisdom beings is not absolutely necessary. It isn't required for, needless to say, it isn't required for an individual who has achieved samadhi. But even for an individual who hasn't yet achieved samadhi, but has something approaching a sensitivity of samadhi, then too it wouldn't be absolutely essential. However, and that is because it is said in the sutra that for those in whom there is sensitivity and conviction, the power of the Buddhas themselves are there. So for that reason, it isn't absolutely critical that one invites the wisdom being if one is sufficiently developed.
다 근데 인도 담아다 다 수수 가면 체베는 디디는 산지 슈요레스 다디 슈요 단조디야 저시 테스 겨워레스 다디 테스 마잖아 양고 삼번만 차르기 말와 나 땅은도 인디어 다지나 셈지 셈지 가왔네는 별하다 산지 들어가는 냠도 내그레스 아서 셈지 가와이는 별은 산지 거기 있는 냠도 요레스 요바 드레스 안지다는 땅도 유 최고 제시 자단로 집이 아니 산지 매사기 아니 사제 요마 신이 요마 사제 요마 했어 아서 이제 그래서 가르치는지나 산지 툭 쳔버가 맞춰서 사제 요마로 산지 맞히냐 최 요마를 안제 최 간지 요베는 들라 산지 쳔버 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 거기서 되나 가요 꾸유 어서 꾸다 쳔버 니부디 거기 송도 이 송도 주고 양도 여러 와서 어디지
So where there is sensitivity of conviction, there the Buddhas are present. Now this might be misunderstood if I don't provide some basis for more understanding. Wherever there are sentient beings, in every place there is sentience, there the Buddha is present. There is no such place as a place where the Buddha is absent. This is the explanations we find in the Buddha Dharma. Now, why is it so? It is because the awareness of the Buddha's omniscience pervades the world entirely. That it does pervade so that the awareness of the Buddha pervades so entails too that the form of the Buddha, the body of the Buddha pervades so. They are a unity, the awareness of the Buddha and the body of the Buddha.
땅에 기술 주어다는 아주 정확히 나라 산지 여러 여말에서 주어다는 것을 랭가리게 돼.
So then, would it follow then that here too in this room the Buddha is present? If I were to propose that, how would you respond?
기술을 주어 그는 정확히 나라 양도 산지 여러 산지 거 여러 신수 삼무땅 전나 전버땅 주어땅 랭가리게 매송.
So with that proposal made that the Buddha is here, when you hear that, what occurs to you inwardly? If you reflect for a moment, how would that reflection inform a response? And how would you respond?
아주 고바는 저런 저리도 따뜻한 연하면 되어서 산지 매비 사조 매서 아니 산지 매비 사조 매나 아니 저런 뒤지시도 수준 뒤면은 아니 산지 요아타 다시 당그레스 일단 내경에서 삼만 못 당고래서
Now this is, if anything's relevant at all, it's relevant, especially in the debate grounds. This is relevant for when one disputant says there is no such place as a place where the Buddha is absent, then the response would be, oh, there before you then must be a Buddha. And as this is the response, this would entail great conversation and dispute.
그래서 삼다나 따탄다 구도 시간 나가냐면 신인도 지면이나 구도 되도 송죽스로와 다들 송죽스를 구도 송이 양도 송을 주고들 송죽스로 제가 구툭 가와 잡서들라 구비 잡으러 왔어. 맞아. 제가 될 송이 잡으러 제가 들리는 구송툭 가가 냠도 매버 주주여 말. 제가 단 저당 계란 라바나 산지 풍요로 꾸요로스나 달 내를 제가 내는 겨로스다. 소소 라바티 라바나 산지 꾸요로스.
맞아. In the practice of the mantrayana, we speak of union, the state of union or unity, and that is namely the unity of awareness and body, or mind and body. of the Buddha. And where the mind and the body of the Buddha are present, necessarily the speech of the Buddha is present. So body, speech, and mind of the Buddha are everywhere present then. Now, if you were to extend your hand before you and claim that the Buddha's body, speech, and mind were there, how would you do so?
예, 근데 다른 사무당 와서 다 사무별라 왜냐면 산제 요래 요마스. 아니 산제 메나 아니 산제 켐바 요래 요마. 켐바 요나 아니 투 요래 요마. 투 요는 송 요래 말다 사무당 아니 수수다 사무당 소녀. 아니 산제시 요당 간제 요메 간레스 요고메 다 수수 냠랭 범위에 오래서.
Then if you were to reflect and extend your hand and conclude that there was no form of the Buddha there, and then follow that with the conclusion that there was no awareness of a Buddha there, and then too that there was no Buddha Vachana there, no speech of the Buddha there. As you went through that, you would have to instead find some alternative conviction for there to be efficacy in the Mantrayana practice.
예, 사드티는 이제 도그나는 가르송에서는 도그나는 이시 진이 찹주 봐서 산제기 켐바 가와 찹기 요나스 찹서들라 꾸이 진고기 찹그레스 아서 꾸이 진고기 찹그레스 제가 다 진도 이시 마찹서 사제 요마 산제기 마쳔베 사제 요마 산제기 마쳔에 최 요마 때 켐베 찹그 켐베 찹서는 꾸이 진고기 찹그레스 this the 산지 켐바 이지 지기자 아니 최 탐절 찹투그레스 산지 켐바기 이지 지기자 아니 세제 진고 세제 거의나 탐절 찹투그레스 어디 숨겨서
Now in the sutras it says that the awareness of the Buddha is everywhere pervading, and necessarily then the body mandala of the Buddha is everywhere present. That follows from there being no such place as a place where the awareness of the Buddha is absent, which means to say there is no knowable that is unknown to the Buddha. So the body mandala of the Buddha is present everywhere. And the presence of the awareness of the Buddha is pervading each moment too. So there is in every moment, everywhere, the mandala of the Buddha's knowables.
다시 단계다 다시 단계 추진 랑 라바 랑 라나 추진스 라바나 추진스 그래서 산지 죽고 요아타 좀 제제로 아니 산지 켐바 유비치스 아서 따다 그래 켐바 유비치스 켐바 유나 우유거데 우니 구두 뭐 찌기 미치스 어서 따고 어딘데 삼당 보거나
Now in formal debate, the subject would be the hand before you. That which is to be demonstrated is that the body of the Buddha is there. The reason that demonstrates this would be that the awareness of the Buddha is there. How is it that this reason is sufficient? How is it that this reason, that the awareness of the Buddha entails the body of the Buddha being there? The reason is that they are a unity. Now, one must turn this over and reflect on that.
아니 부제 가르고서 산지 꾸요와 타스 이나 산지 꾸요와 두고 가서 부제 가서 산지 켐바 유르셔스 아서 투 유르셔스 켐고데 투다 산지 켐바 유데 아니 가서 산지 꾸단 송니 오지 임비셔 지기는 지기요 지기는 저 오지 임비셔 지기요 지기요 요마서다 투유나 꾸요와 저는 유나 아니 모나가 산지 꾸요가 강바디나 어디 또 둘째되는지 좀 그래서
Now, as one reflects in a formal manner, one must have some clarity regarding the subject. The subject may be any number of places, in one's hand, in this building, in a mall. The probandum, what is to be proven, is that that which is to be proved is that the Buddha is present there in any of these places. The reason sufficient for the conclusion is that the awareness of the Buddha is everywhere present in any of these subjects. And this is so for the reason that the form of the Buddha and the awareness of the Buddha are an identity. They are a unity. So wherever the awareness is, the form, the body, the mind are there.
예, 다는 산지 유나 안에 다 산지 내 통금도 왔다. 저들이 그래서 저다. 산지 수주 산지 유나 내 통고다. 통마송 왔다. 사무티 거기를 저들이 그러왔어. 다 수수 마통한테 가르치는 향을 레기 집에 마통하려면도 수수기 거기 미래다. 갑자는 그 통금만 와서다. 디나지 레기 집에 가. 이 마통하려면도 산지 유가 돼서
There may be an objection that if it were so that the Buddha's form were here, it would be visible to me. That's a natural response. I need to see this to confirm that. I don't see it, so it can't be confirmed. That's follows, right? Karmic obscurations prevent one from seeing this. For this reason, that there are karmic obscurations present in us, this isn't visible, observable to us. Just as when we cover an eye, we don't see, the objection that there's nothing visible wouldn't follow.
다 단다 그냥 나라도 단다 빼지 시대거든 냐면 제로 이나 다 탐지 셈버 대게들은 다 이시 셈버의 제한창은 수용유정보다 수수 뭐가 여바던 가르 고바이나 그 여바 임바디 단다 두지 디기야 키고 해서 아그 수수 세다면다 이시 셈 탐지 셈버의 세다면다 그 이시 셈버의 대단하네 마티미아 여바다 팀고 여다 주가가 윤생 저기다 빼 거기다 리버티기 딜 삼다한테네 아니 세다면 세다 소신 세다 아니 소신 거기 이시바디기 자다 주제한 탐지 셈버 마팀 아니 대한 자홍 바모스도 이수 매봐 왜 취는 출 잡은 루가나신 이박 이 차야는 찍임바 어딘지 삼다한 거래서
Now as each applies this demonstration, formal demonstration, to their practice, the application is the very invitation of wisdom beings to the merit field, to descend and dissolve into the commitment beings. This is the invitation. The invitation of the wisdom beings gains its relevance by merit of the conviction that follows from this sort of demonstration, logical demonstration. So bring the logical demonstration into the application here in the petitioning of the merit field and inviting the wisdom beings to the commitment beings so that they may dissolve into each commitment being. And when they do, they dissolve, and the syllables za, hum, bam, ho are convey that they have become wisdom being and commitment being indivisibly one, that very unity, as water poured into water.
일단 아주 뒤에 나가 초반 냠내 지기 요가 있네 자 아니 나가 샤페 지기 요가 있네 자 아니 도와지미 가르치기 요가 있네 초바 땅도 아니 다 담지선보다 이시선보다 누가 냠내 지고 다들 이시선보 제한장도 다 간데 제한 장기나 다 마다나 그러랑 뭐 같이 아니 가르치 냠내 지기나 어디도 가가 지구가 해서
Ordinarily, in the practice of the mantrayana, in whichever ritual practice one may find oneself, whichever ceremonial practice one finds oneself in, this practice of invitation of the wisdom beings into the commitment beings, the involvement of the samadhi being, this process is implied in each of these ritual ceremonies in the Mantrayana.
Oh, yeah, that is Yunzen the Ribata, the Getiche. That in you chance test Javaina. And on the Lugu Karsna Penamado Havatomic. Havatomic children Chaboko Druberwa. Luzambani, Lojuni, but the Druber Lugiores. Lojuni, but the Drunia, children Chaboko Majeva. Hamataman Parama, children Chaboko bed, Druber and Chiaquare Lugu till the Giores. Chazan, the Lugu has not been a little bit session below. Penajawad. How Tomegita, Frangi Yamne Chia Chitula, Jawa Chambako, Jego, Yoga, Frank, the leg, Buta, Mangu, your religion, Orang Chambako, Ambu Losum Trubas, Losum Truman, Korangata, or talking to some Aresan and some Sha. Some Shaduzamana, Korang, some of them turned to them magic jar and this. On the Jamon Chumbo, the new Kion, dollar they were. And dollar there is a money. Our Tommy cannot be culture is that again, Jango the Lan cups of the inner. And let our Tommy, quit Jango Chimbo in the need. Lan cups of two in the thing, George and Moko Madun to do some and you on some shoe party. And you losum going to losum going to do. I losum did the other true chat. True chat is about the day during the room that to some other some young. Besemero Shuni, that's your material. To do the money, Korang, Samgang, Chiloma, Tensag, or the Chu, quite young. Then Dutchmu, whom is over in the Chusat. And so the Korang, the summer called Chutibagi, and thought that you over with the Chusat to the game. Locally, Yamato in Mumar, or some you get, and you come at you, when you want to our logo chasma. Logo to the man, Koran touch and do some Marzama, Tayon to some, and enjoy Kanima Korang. Matayon to Korang, Samgang, treated Chabuji, Shoba, the Tarn, the Dopongi Bottle, Mitasa, the Thomas was Tarn, Shoba Tarn. And Korangi, child logic, that Dodge with the Sevachi to another gate of Dunama, 3 months, simplified. Yeah, Korang, and Lojuni, Chapa the Brunei, and Majerwa, and what are tongues at Matayon. And Matayon, the Korama, from someone Matan Chilo to them, from Silma, Lerochi, and the cultures in the Korana key. Chipruchi, and so which has a match on Buja. The root you the digit, the Shinans, numbers was the digit tongue. And told them, Koran, she was in English would get. And they are English would get. I culture with the kid, and this job when some Koran English gave it. And in the Jen and Kitty Jovel to Lala, Korangi Garcia, and Louis Shadi for the Kitty Boutique, Kitty Jovel to the boutique was 7, you know, boutique Shidu. And boutique Marcel and Kitty Shidu, Tangi Kandi Jones and Koran English with the rich tongue gain chen. And Korangi Garcia, and Rangi Louis Shadi, and he okay, boutique land up chen. And then the children Korang Lagway Lagatuna, Lagway, language of Buddhishidu, Buddhishin, Yanga, and Korang check layer, some of them jelly would keep good to layer, Tavishi, and make some jelly done for the Bulanga to do, and jelly come to where your matter. And to where me to Korang make do down, kill your matter, blast. And now to the man, Korang Karina, some numb sitters, some numb Jawachamoko, which you see with chair. It was Shabbat myself. And Yawachabago was here, Yawakom didn't come on the Yawakom, which was put on some tree. Never Lojuni, but the J and Pecharama J Mason. And Koran Yushel, I'm not Yawachabago Yushel. In Lojuni, but the Charan Tuba Yi, Charama J Mason, and begging the Pekalish would give us Yushel. And Yawachabago moving up, Charan Chill around 8 years. Charan Kama Gom, some Yaduning, Charan Chill, Charan to never been, but you soon have one. And Charan Kazin, Nama Thomas, Charan, egg to Matawa is that, and Nama Thomas. Charin Charan English would take gain chene, and leg to work on the cover, that Charan Thomas, or the Lugu soon is. Mamucha Maracha. Oh, yes.
that then for the logical demonstration. Now there are accounts too for the purpose of understanding the value of the invitation of the wisdom being. The story that I think I might as well tell to you is of Arya Sangha. And Arya Sangha, for the purposes of furthering his practice, chose to practice Maitreya that he might have a vision and encounter with Maitreya. But after great hardship and great effort, he wasn't successful. After 12 years of application, diligent application to this, he wasn't successful. He didn't have a vision and didn't meet with the emanation of Maitreya. But I think then I'll just go ahead and tell you how 12 years passed and why he didn't, after 12 years, have a vision of Maitreya. In the beginning, as he set out to practice Maitreya, as the account goes, he began with a 3-year retreat, and at the end of 3 years, he still had found no success. So he aborted the retreat and left. But as he was leaving his retreat, he came upon a man beside the road with a hunk of metal that he was using a file to sharpen. It was a massive hunk, but he was sharpening it and filing away at it. And so Asanga asked, "What are you up to here?" And the man responded, "I'm making a fine needle out of this." And Arya Sangha reflected that if this man, through diligence, could make of this hunk of metal a fine needle, then he is himself very well able, I am myself very well able to spend another 3 years so that I may encounter Maitreya. And so he returned to his retreat, and 3 more years passed, and he still had no success, and he was disappointed, and then abandoned his retreat again. And as he left, there was a little waterfall beside where he'd been on retreat. And as he was passing, he observed that the steady drip on a stone seemed to have worn through the stone, so that the steady drip of water had worn through something as solid as stone. And that was sufficient to inspire him again to return to retreat. And he spent a further 3 years in retreat. But again, he was disappointed at the end of 3 years, for he had found no success, and he abandoned his retreat again. But as he was leaving, he found that there was a place where the birds would flap their wings, and they'd flap there and had done so much that where their wingtips brushed stone, it was clear that the stone had been worn away by something as fine as their feathers. And this again was what he required to return again for a further 3 years in retreat. And during that 3 years, again he was frustrated and failed to realize Maitreya, and he abandoned his retreat one last time and set out to return to civilization. And as he came to the edge of a village, he came upon a rotting living dog that was on its last legs, that was being eaten alive by maggots. And it was a frightening sight, a fearful sight to him. And so distressing that seeing it caused him to develop Mahakaruna, great compassion for this suffering dog. And then, moved as he was by great compassion, he was inspired to find how he could possibly manage to save the dog. And he thought that the maggots are feeding on the flesh of this dog, but I need to protect the dog. The maggots too need to survive. I'm concerned for them as well. So they must continue to eat. They might eat my own flesh. And so he cut some of his own flesh for the maggots to feed on, but that didn't solve entirely the problem, to relocate the maggots so that they might eat his flesh, he would have to move them. And they're such delicate creatures that if you were to remove them with his fingers, they might die. So he needed to tenderly move them, and he thought that I can easily tenderly remove them with my own tongue and move them to my own flesh here. And so he did, and he closed his eyes to do that because it was such a thing to see that he preferred to do it closing his eyes. And he closed his eyes and began to do this, and then opened his eyes, and the rotting dog had disappeared, and in its place in the sky was Maitreya in his majesty and magnificence, Maitreya there in the sky. And right then, Arya Sangha began to complain to Maitreya that it had been 12 long years, and for 12 long years he hadn't seen Maitreya. He hadn't had a vision or ever encountered Maitreya. How could it be that after such hardship now he had made himself visible? And Maitreya responded, because Arya Sangha was complaining to him. He responded that from the very beginning I was present beside you from the outset, and he related the entire story of Maitreya's Arya Sangha's retreat. But he pointed out that all along your karmic obscurations were present, so I remained obscured to you. And only now, with the development of Mahakaruna, have the karmic obscurations been finally eliminated so that you may see me.
Oh, yes, that. Then I said that you mango your loving tender home, loving tender home. I mean, when the daughter, when you do what you were, the daughter was almost you were thought, chosen to what you were, loving tender home, send them the daughter. I mean, the what you were in it. When you touch in a loving tender home, cherish to work, cherish to don't enjoy. And cherish to wear human word that it is Chenmo was it. And the joke where when you took where you send it, so the daughter when you do the together, but the top wheel, what send them the dog towards in Jogor. And the pandit daughter about that you be shooting the daisy like cabbage and cut the chalk, however. And when that cut to cut the chalk, your brand, cherish it to them, cherish sunny daughter about it. That's about creating you meant to go cherish it to cherish to land the Japs Lamrim what. And imagine that the heart of it, what can the river of Handina, called Lavin and Pabal Sagar, and Magic on Cockers to Tari, and Coran cherish it to me. And cherish is shade, and cherish a sunny daughter when you do what it's the Lavi, and cherish the daughter of again, cherish it. That daughter of one cherish is called Jane, and Chang Sinjin and Yering matches. And not the woman tower 10 of Pavia Chitula, the Joba Jaggy, and Genesis, and the Genesis. The Malab,
I like the
land Malab.
young kids sometimes like career so much. Young kids some.
Look, send up on myself. Send up on the same similar dogs. When the daughter of the Omabero, we so much the water, today we so much over. So much it is about so much in the local send up on which you hungry about it. Hasn't Mabars, the Koran changes it to dear. No. To be changed and changes the folk church legend, sunny thought of it. Tasikar Tangi, Milanka, for cherish it for love shower. And jealous thought of a culture, co cherish to be with Hapone, and cherish in the shooting Chiran called Ranger love dreamers. And up they make change and pen, almost you with their ton of papa using one shoot and jealous in Malabar. And it's the Venom Palmer. I know what they love it or what they did. That's how the ritual will give you what needs to work.
Now, there's another account of the debate between Chandragoman, who proposed or was a proponent of the Vijnavada or the Chittamatra philosophical system, and his debate with Chandrakirti, who was proponent of the Prasangika view. And Chandrakirti was a master logician whom none could ever best, because he was so fluent in logic. Yet somehow it happened that Goman, as a proponent of the Vijnavada view, was able to survive in debate with Chandrakirti. And the reason was that Chandragoman practiced Lokeshvara as Yidam, and had aptitude such that he was able to rehearse logical debate with Lokeshvara, Avalokiteshvara, and prepare for debate with Chandrakirti, so that when the debate happened, he was able to respond well enough to Chandrakirti. But Chandrakirti was aware of this and confronted Lokeshvara with the argument that the Prasangika view is the supreme view. It's my role to establish it. So you mustn't be partial in such a way that we fail to establish the Prasangika view. And so this is another illustration of the wisdom being and its utility.
근데 세상 다 아니 세상 다 단다 되게 가르치는 주고요래스나 다 좀 되게 롱기디 가지고 다 산지 거기 잡유도 소신 가서 산지들라 지금 가라서 야마 패치 전쇼당 패로지들이 마시나야 들이 저렇게 치고 말했어 마시나야 그 가수도 몇가 쳐봐이나 쌤나 대버수 쳐봐이나 뒤뒤도 패기를 했어 어디 전화 지식이 열었어 배는 빼디 걸려나 아니 그 배가 고미 취미도 있나 저 주기주의나 저 내지나 여번이 출고나 당마이나 다외 수미샤 대부 합시 치고 말와 축구랑 싸우면은 나의 수시하고 말와 축구랑 당마이는 나의 수 다까지 샤레 저렇게 치고 말와 어디나시 산지기 만화도 수수에 쌤이 짱만 대바이나 아니 산지 가와이나 수수 가와이는 제 산지 열했습니다. 제가 제제 마지막 뒤에 슈가 된다 대해서.
So these accounts are meant to illustrate both the purpose of inviting a wisdom being, but also the argument that it isn't absolutely necessary to invite the wisdom being. In the merit field with the Buddhas and the supreme refuge, all the persons of the merit field, whether they come and go as they've been invited or not, depends upon whether one is exercising the sensitive conviction in the presence of the Buddha everywhere. And where there is faith and conviction, rather conviction that the Buddha is present, there hasn't got to be this formal invitation. Now, it's as it were, wherever there is water, it may reflect the moon, but where it's turbid or murky, it won't reflect the moon. But wherever there is water, if it weren't turbid, if it weren't murky, it would reflect the moon, for the moon is there to be reflected always. In this very same way, I mean, convey the purpose of the wisdom being.
거기 딱 간다라 가나도 수술 답변 아주 컴버디 잡로라 아니 지금 심지어 열에 여 말에서는 다른 아주 컴버디 찍버디 엄청 마통하면도 그 심지 지금 자면은 지우면은 가르다 지금 심지어로 여버때 이바를 이내디 마통하디 아주 가르치는 찍버디가 마통하러 왔어 된나시 다 산지에서 전주 선바도 아주 뭐 세버지 제마토야 통마토에디 안나서 레기 집에 벌까 마통하래 만도 산지도 여버레스 가고 수수 수입 몇가 채바 있는 수입 대바 채바 있는 뒤뒤는 산지 쇼스니 돌나 농타서 집어지게 해서는
It's no different that behind the wall of this building there are undeniably living animals and things, yet we can't see them, and if we were to look to see them, we wouldn't, though there are certainly birds and other animals behind this building. the wall blocks that, so we don't see them. Similarly, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are certainly present, but we do not see them. They aren't visible to us. We seem not to encounter them. And this is because there is the obstruction of karmic obscuration. Though they are certainly there, obscurations prevent them from being visible to us.
오예 다 단다도 가르스는 산지 랑이 빈도 산지도 다 소소는 소신시고 소신 산지 가리는 바 있나요? 이 유에다 매디 수수고 뒤시를 하려고 뒤시 왕이 당기 대바지 우주 유에서는 우주 유에바랑 질럽 대가랑 토그레스 랑 질럽 쇼고 있나자 가르치고 있는 대가랑 차상 수준을 유에바레스 아니 소남 산이 있나요? 대가랑 제수 다음에 쌤 가서 당화에다 되게 소남 많아 토그레스 재산 근데 인도도 뭐 개비 유에 딱 간다 하나도 지금 냠내지도 개비 유에 도바세야 된다라 따다는 전전 쉬세야 다나 아니 즉 수쌤 다고 용해야 된다 이치 용해야 된다 아니 전전 당들이 지고라서 수수 때문에 대바리 유에가 이거 전전 당고 해면서 요말 어디 주고 그래서
Then before us in the visualization of the merit field are the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And their reality depends upon our own conception and apprehension here. Whether or not we have a conviction as part of our conception of the perfect refuge that we receive a blessing from that perfect refuge. It is there, and as we accumulate merit, for the purpose of accumulating merit, we may invite the wisdom being into the commitment beings of the merit field. Now, whether the refuge is there or not, for a person who is beset by this doubt, the wisdom being may be invited into the commitment being to help persuade the person so that they may have the conviction and faith necessary to receive the blessing.
오예 다 되래 다는 좀 젠제하게 단다 즉시다 이거를 뭐 즉시부디 아니 간데 중앙에서는 뭐만 좀 되듯이 시슈기자 많이 좀 되듯이 수사게 다 거기 니에나 수사게 지다 예부 네 명나 대사 예부되면 가서 예부 침다 고면서 진짜 이거 나 침다 고면서 예부 좀데 니에를 주신다 나니 예부들에 그런 보물에 보문되기 아니 그런 도저로 막 누구를 남았지 다른 거 지내니 상이 좀 되게 대박이도 제대로 아무랑 뼈지 빠는 제대 동거 좀 되게 되는 시야 말을 심지 건지 유대권에 대해서 오늘 좀 되고 내 특실이 보문만 가다 상황이 되게 좀 되는 대로 대박이는 제대 주야 즉 그런 순요를 해서 네 뭔가를 상황에 기본 수준이 세고 침다 고민 시즌이 그런 게 정말이야. 너 이게 계속 뭐 같아. 이게 걸어서 자마시.
Come on, yeah. So I recited that verse to you. Savior of all beings without exception, divine conqueror of terrible demon hosts, who knows all entities truly and completely, O Bhagavan, please approach together with your retinue. Now, these are the very verses that were recited by a young woman, Magadabhadra, who was son of the Legoman king in Shravasti at the time of the Buddha. Now, for the purposes of her finding good fortune, she invited the Buddha Shakyamuni in this way, reciting this verse and lighting a stick of incense. It's the very same verse.
예복이 그다 보면 되잖아. 아니 즉 밖에 랑이 따지 니엔도 니엔도 둘이 장사로 로고 이거이나 아니 도색이 가지고 유대한 개부 개모도 잠시는 잠시 리마저 제약이 그런 롱백을 우수했다. 제가 딱 그런 보면데 망가다 보면서 방문세대 아니 가르쳐야 했으면 아니 소조 야와 소조 아니 다 되시고 그런 신발 유스 그런 신발 유스다 야와 소조 뭐지 미르다. 어디 개부지기다 그런 보면데 나만롱도 많이 그런 아니 개부 되게 급하게 간다. 좀 되게 쇼사 심다 고면서 이제 아니 다 좀 되게 고랑이 내가 가르치는 좀 되게 쉬고요. 다좀 되게 내가 가르쳐 가서 제가 고랑 주도 막에 보면은 나만 롱도 얼마나 땅에 되기로 해서 좀 되게 쉬다. 좀 되게 어한테 되기로 땅쇼 제마지만 먹어볼 때 템벌 쉬우 편도 좀 지토 그래. 아니 나만 제쇼 나만 땅다. 나만 좀 땅을 호조를 장조는 호조 받았다. 그것도 나원이 순도 사제로 다른 것이 달래 다른 것이지만 그러면게 도저로 말레서도 아니 밖에 대사 그 사제들이 아니 가래 못이고 야뭐 다르다서 사제 나서 근데 야뭐 다르다서 사제 이디어 막에를 되듯이 뭐 되듯이 뭐 밖에 좀 되듯이 다와 자기 여러를 기능도 좀 남박이 쳐 개론도 가르치기 이면 고발 가르치기 좀 되듯이 가르는 게 이면 보라 셈나 예바 요로와 아마가 못이버 그 지나다 아니 이게 긴두버도 지나도 되게 되는 거 뭐게 농부전 대리도 아니 그나도 믿어보고 취해 치리되는 거기 따와 참고를 하고서 따와 가가자. 그 때는 먼저 농부 타는 걸로 좀 먼저 농부 지지든지 이건 진도 먼저 찍고 레미도 되는 망고 쉬고 되게 망고 쉬도 좀 아니 그러면 루기 망고 쉬를 되는 뭐랑 기타 따와 참고 해봐야지 아니 뭐랑 가르쳐야 아니 레 뭐라고 걔를 제 레도 스콜 끔지나 아주 명워서도 좀 그것도 것도 어디 그dum지 없이 되고 세상에 그러면 명디 지우지 않는 엄마 이세고로 이제 뭔가도 보면 상모사고로 그 막을 누구들도 보면 되면 보면 그도만 하나 그것도 되죠 동바 땡기면 그것도 되고도 근데 그것도 되고 아니 되게 지도 그것도 지나서다 못 입어서 계란 가르치거든 그 맞아 좀 받아 계란 좀 받아 가지고 먼저 기도 계속 기도 저기도 스텔라도 아니 건조기 딱 가르치고 그랬어 계란 좀 받아 기도 대리시 포스트 콜 오더 때 아니 저는 디그레스 기도 대리치도 당에 대리시 또 그랬어 대리치는 딸 미리 중화해서 마치 너무 남았으면 되잖아 버렸어
Now it's a long story. The story of this king Legoman and his daughter Magadabandra. It's a story that has to do with the Indian custom of arranged marriages between like caste or between monarchs. So a princess or prince would have their marriage arranged for them with another prince, with a princess or a prince, and a Brahmin would be married off to another Brahmin caste person. So it was for Magadabhadra in the north of India where she was. The king and Magadabhadra were both devoted to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and so before the arranged marriage, the king approached the Buddha Shakyamuni and asked if it was auspicious for his daughter to be wedded off to a king in the south of India, and the Buddha Shakyamuni said that indeed it would be, for that would help the dissemination of the Buddha Dharma into the south of India. So the arrangement for an engagement there was prepared, and then Magadabhadra, the young woman, needed to travel to the south for the purposes of the arranged marriage. And from north to south in India, then it was a long journey. And eventually she arrived in the south and found that the south of India had many tirthikas, many non-Buddhist heretics or skeptics there. the king there was the Tirthika Sarvacharya. And so as Magadhavajra arrived in the south, what she found was that the customs were different and the views were different and the teachers were different, that there was skepticism and non-Buddhist view there. And because she had been formerly so accustomed to visiting the Buddha Shakyamuni Sangha and venerating the Buddha Shakyamuni, to arrive in such a place, such a strange place of teachers of different views, it caused her discomfort. So there's a great deal more to the story, but uncomfortable in this new place with new views, she veiled her face, and for the privacy and protection there where everything was strange. Who had formerly been this young woman, Magadhavajra, was renamed. She was renamed. She earned a different name as the veiled woman because she had covered herself in this way. And what she found there among the others were different views. And she explained this to those around her, that the views here are very different. The views, my teacher in northern India is a very different teacher of different views. And so the non-Buddhist heretics there, the skeptics there said, well, you may invite them then here, invite this teacher here. And she said, okay, then you make the preparations and I'll make the invitation. And thus this verse of invitation.
像这程度，有beauty 年不有人那个起码是为因素是，and pretty这些到我在车程怎么样噻？
So we've got to wrap up this story here because we've just about run out of time, and there's more to the story, which I'll leave for next week. So we'll conclude this part of the lesson here, and then for any doubts that you have, we may use this remaining time to resolve them.
Yeah, 车嘛让我分不能车身的。
Ask a question.
Yeah, good morning. The few parts of the study. First is the presence of the Buddha, as though the animals are outside this building. How does the presence of the deity differ from people talking about the present Virgin Mary, the presence of Krishna or Rama Krishna having bishop presenting before him, or White Buffalo woman presenting before the Dakota significant different traditions of all of them talk about these deities appearing before them. How does this differ from the Buddhist tradition of this type of visualization as though they're real, like animals outside are real, because they're believing the same way within the Buddhist tradition? Then the other question, when he talks about the dissolving of the wisdom body into the human body, and that leads to samadhi, but then he says it's not necessary for that to occur. But that leads to sensitivity samadhi. But then he also said that part of dissolving this body, the connected body, is not necessary because one can already have samadhi. So when he's talking about sensitivity samadhi, he's talking about the different jhanas, and thus the concentration of it changes and you go from close to subtle affliction. And is that the sensitivity? Is that what you mean by that term sensitivity? And if it's not necessary for that process of the wisdom body dissolving the commitment body, and then there's just the practice of samadhi, then that practice is not necessarily talking about the sort of a sadhana. That real transformation was Mahakaruna, where he was actually, where Mahatreya appeared before him. So even with all the samadhi that he had, that visualization did not occur until Mahakaruna was present. So are we really talking about the fusion of wisdom and compassion at that time for that experience of Mahakaruna?
Then a cut. You have a check. And don't put the that's what any Sangedenza any Mesa Meva. And then any Tikpegi Gablola, Zinjin Yorete, Matsugi Nanglo Lani, and it tongue Nicobar. That's that needs to be Yimbache. Then any domain mirror Menra Moyore, then Ari domain mirror Lakota say you are. Then a domain mirror tea, Tatsula, Susugi Tomba, Tomba, Tomba Lani, Tomba Dacha, Tomba, Tomba, Lam Kalunakin, and a consola, and a Yidam Rabu, and a Zigore, nature the Logu diore, nature the Yor, and it domain mirror, and a Dramanda Yore, and a Manchewala, and a Fa, Jalia, the Logu the Riam Yore, Jezan the Nambe and the Tawamai, Nambe Namshati, Susuki Sumbati, down the domain mirror, and a Tomba Tenzugi, Tajia Tangi, and a Drawer the 아니 주리야 요래대 직제 어서 직제 옛날에 니버디는 가르로 아니 예시 상태에 이 마르팀 팀 거기 юм센데 내가 연어 아니 팀 거기 말아 내가 쓴 거라 대바 뭐바다 대바인데 연어
띵고
인지민지 아니
진짜
진짜 쉬고 말
띵고 띵에 거 냠내로 지고로 진짜 좀 말았어
팀이 거기를
진짜 받은 시바 진짜 당지벌 띵이 저거 띵고 말
이나한테 팀 거기를
띵고 띵에
내 가르침
이 시점부터 당지점이 좀 어찌 치고로
이는
뭐 랑줄 이당도 좀 어찌 치고
나디 먹거나 봐 임진 쉬 먹거나 이 소속이 뭐백이 킹기 예시당 아니 닝제디 직도 되네 아니 파워 통매 나신 아니 제준 장과 아니 제도 그러 니 공가르스 라성세나 이 아니 닝제당 예시 직도 되네 직도 되베 떡기 아니 제준 장과 아니 제인스레
이제는 상당히 많다. 단단히 거기 가서나 거기 여와 참아 제마투야디 그런 게 레기 트백이 방자고 한 게. 제마투가 레스나 빼지 루규리 시에서 딱 간단 간단한 빼들 자도 아주 거기 이 갸블로 선제 유연하는 우리 랑마투야디 지버디 시에서 대나신 아주 소신 단단 아주 세우지 제마투야디 소신 매번 말했어. 소신 제마투야디 랑이 트백 다 맡아보니까 맞이버렸어. 유디디 식으로 어디디체. 나도 이 되면 메르세트 거 이제 말고도 와서나 아주 남북의 유념행 차는 대시 예거이나 아니 상계 생기디 심제나 강되바 남바 땡기레스. 수수적으로 매바 가리나 디던 팀버스 남바 땡기레스. 아니 상계 탑을 켜버렸어. 컨트롤해서 내가 남바 때문에 요마레스. 대시 요마레스. 이내야 딱소 치슈랑 꿀ung 삼바당 꿀ung 거네 아니 삼냠내 지단 거 쳐버렸어. 나콜라 산지기 뒤시샤 아니 내리 제바 이나야 콜라 산지기 질랍주에 고갑도 요랬어. 그래서 이내 건축이 가된 요데 산지에 말에 띵어서 제바 단단 가지고 제백이 연구 말했어. 그래서 그냥 아주 단단 가지고 다섯 번째 시기하다 건축이 번째 시기하니 직벌을 해서 해야 된다. 아니 건축 요가지고 요래서 해야 돼. 저희나 근데 아주 김백 수주고 로정 돈 연구 말아 가서 산지 그 산지 있는 많이 따야라. 말한테 따야게 산지 이미 따투게 요가지고 걸어 와. 때문에 아니네 건축을 산지 뒤시샤는 냠내 제외이나 모두 중앙 요가들도 요하듯.
자, 그래서 아니 좀 미리 등속이 아니 때 소속이 하디 아니 딱 상이 아니 연구 몇 번째네 되네 아니 등랍 쉬어요.
제요로 대요로.
들으면
그러나 아주 집어라. 그 이슈 처리하는 구조 이게 찍으러 와. 그런 딜레폰 체계를 스콜 때문에 뒤시작을. 아저도 때문에 뒤시작을 말아.
이는 진나 발이요.
지나 봐. 그런 구조 매매지도 지나 비어라. 그나시 컨트롤 그런 속에 때문에 지나지로. 이는 본이 거기 이슈비 때문에 말 저거저거. 딜링 그때 데스카를 하고.
Now the second part of your question, as you formulated it, is not just as I intended it necessarily. For my emphasis was on the obscuration caused by karmas. Karmic obscuration prevents that which would otherwise be visible from being visible. So that's the emphasis there. Not so much wisdom and compassion in this case. What occurred for Maitreya was finally there was a final expiation of karmas. karmic obscuration, which allowed for encounter with Maitreya. Now your first question regarding the practices of indigenous Lakota people and the rest. We aren't really able to reach a conclusive statement about that, about whether the teacher would be the same or different, the practice and the efficacy of the idea of one's teacher or of an appearance being a deity. We do say that the Buddha was brilliant in his method and deployed every conceivable means for the benefit of disciples to be tamed, all appearance that would be required. And also the conception of an appearance depends upon one's intention and one's motivation in the encounter. And so for a Buddhist, the conception of an appearance as a Buddha confers or is conducive for the experience of a blessing for the intensification of a spiritual practice. Now, whether or not an appearing deity in another tradition carries the same efficacy is a difficult one for a person who hasn't realized the intention involved in the conception of an appearance as a Buddha or not. Depends upon whether or not oneself has the very conception of an appearance as a Buddha. That would be required for ever touching on this question. Now, for the purposes of, for instance, Christians in their practice, as they conceive of their Lord, it's clear that their conception of the appearance of their Lord is sufficient for an intensification of their spiritual practice. That means that the blessing is conveyed through that, for instance. Any other? It looks as though Sujata.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful teaching. I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about the Chandragomin versus Chandrakirti debate situation. It's interesting. My understanding is that from what you described, that Chandragomin had such a profound practice with Avalokiteshvara that Avalokiteshvara appeared with such clarity and with such like a vivid visualization presence that a debate was actually capable of. A debate partnership was there. My curiosity is about Chandrakirti's relationship with Avalokiteshvara and whether or not it was similarly vivid, or whether Avalokiteshvara was whether Chandrakirti was confronting Avalokiteshvara about asking Avalokiteshvara to not be partial to his other student and to elevate the Prasangika view without that kind of vivid relationship, or that vivid, that level of vivid. So that was my curiosity about.
Well, just Chandragomin and Badan Dawa Jakuti, so big quarter to the Nikoyala, Chandragomin give, and Chinrezigi, Nyamlin, Chibi Kingi, Drubi King, Drup, Yan Dapar, Drubi Kingi, and Chinrezi Nyamdu. And the Limon Nang and the neck up the 토벌을 라딕 제야라 아니 저것도야라 네 찬드 고민기 냠네 제비 토끼 아니 이 예담데 아니 제요래 아니 제와서 말해 아니 펜수 아니 링몬나야 되는 좀 그래 이네디 도바사사 가르레스나 이 찬드 크리티 계시기 가르선 거레스나 찬드 크리티 가르레 다와다베기 양 아니 젠레즈 아니 잡으러 아니 이 가인세는 김생가르에서는 수수 아니 우마탄기로 아니 따와디 아니 따얘기 제도 아니 젠레즈라 그라 아니 주도 많이 나와시는다고 아니 숨으로 제가 지금 가르에서는 다른 나와 잡기 시비 모르라 홍모르라 아니 젠레즈 아니 세팅이 되는 남거래 아니 잔르고만 나시 찍거를 이 셀차기 거 셀차 찍거를
딱 건들 세세 찍고 찍게 되면은 다 루주 거라면 세우 개요 말와 아니 제가 이 가고 딱 가리어스나 건들 고랑이 제레스 저거 되는 chen 아니 고랑이 저번에 밤이 땅이 여바디 고랑이 갖고 와줘와 일루주 나는 요래서 그래서 고랑 저번 살 숨chen 고랑 밤이 중대 아니 그 가르치는 밤이 중화 따져서 말은 고랑 제레스 저 그랬던 게 유명한데 고랑이 저한테는 지금 어디 고랑이 참아 줘와 딜루 유나는 요래서 유나 요래서 이제 제레스 고랑 무슨 지금 요도 메디 일루주 제마뉴스
다 이는디 기시기든 숨메데 이 다른 잡기 안에 제레즈라 칙 숨으로 무슨 칙 숨으로
딜루주 나는 뒤어와
유나는 무슨 지어요메
다 그bencen다 공미기 아니 제레스 다와 타고 저거 토베 치고라 아니 고랑 제레스 프로그램 제레스 시제 제는 고랑 산이 다와 타고 저거 가르치기 유명해지는 그 렌즈한테 콜랍샤고 라비오레스 어서 그다음 딱 제만 다와 타고 가르쳐서 고랑 제레스 콜라야 람두치기 요바데 하고 이 아니 시에는 제레스가 저랑 심지어는 일행 맞지. 아마 저번 자고야지. 네. 오메기 때와 때나 봐야지도 이스. 어디 가 무슨 제 유명한 루비티네 세우스는 게 나요. 내가 루비는 여기가 어디 시작이 그래서 루비는 이거 같아. 무슨 제 유도 메가 세우라고 이처럼 렌트 도마노스. 난 루비 심하나 이래나? 뭐 시작이 그거라. 나중에 루비를 단 시작으로
I can't say for certain whether Chandrakirti had a direct encounter vision of Avalokiteshvara. What the account that I'm familiar with relates is that he became aware that Avalokiteshvara was coaching Chandragoman, because implausibly 3 times consecutively he had failed to best Chandragoman, which was unlikely. So he knew that there was coaching, and that Avalokiteshvara was responsible. So he then asked Avalokiteshvara in which way that happened. I can't say for sure, but he asked that Avalokiteshvara not be partial and intervene in this case, because in this case, Chandrakirti's objective was to establish the Prasangika view. Now, if there were more said about this, given in this account, I could speak to your question directly, but I'm not familiar with any other details.
Curious about the presentation thinking about Home and whether there's correlation between the triple tattva Home and the Dharmakaya, Samogakaya, and Yomanakaya. Can we think of those as correlations?
Those are there, and the sunset, sunset. 아니 무르라 무기죠. 저거리. 다드네 오마 홍다니 디 쿠숨
어,
기저 받는데 양물에.
또 엄마 손디 엄마 손디 좋아. 네 무슨 계획이 우리 얘기 소연으로 쓰면 얘기 열와 또 갖고 깨야 내가 저는 신경 좀더 깨고 소연 보도와 어디나 시 거기서 묻고 깨야 선들이 이게 숨겨
나
엄디 고도지 아니 아디 동도지 홍디 도도지 어서 도도지 깨고 위에나 이게 홍을 요새 좀 장데 야만 장제 야만 사번 얘기를 깨고 아니 송도지 깨고는 아리 깨고 도도지 깨고는 엄을 깨고 어디 저요 그래서
예전에 구숨 저기 그 롱주도도 그 나서 디단저 여러데
무슨
그래 구숨 투
도숨
라라라
어디
이네 구숨 라야디 구 그래서 구숨 저기 나서 디단저 여러데
말을 무슨 수고 주고 누구를
디딜라
돼 말해
네 말해
돼 말해 돼 누구도 우사데 고 들어와 배나 이제 다들 다른 것도 어머 아웅세디 가래 아니 가래 잡이 고도지 송도지 도도지 어서
나
또 도도지래다 또 생도와 아니 거기 단다 무슨데 저와 매버려서는 저와 매버는 말해 이내는 또 얘기를 해라 들이 수고도 추고들이 저거 되지 말해
now these syllables hum, they or the gesture characteristic the visual characteristic are seeds for ripening the Vajrabadi, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind. That is, Om is a seed, just as a seed is used to plant the sprout, the seed for the Vajrabadi. A is the seed for Vajra speech. Om is the seed for Vajra mind. Now, it's not that this is disconnected from the three kayas. It's just that in this particular Om Ahum is correlated precisely with Vajra body, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind. The Om Ahum may be correlated, and so too may be gesture and characteristic of the visual appearance of the person with Vajra body, Vajra speech, and Vajra mind.
타다나서 무슨 저기 뭐 결혼을 뭐 듣고 또 누구 두고 죽을 저기도 그래서 뭐 죽고디 담도 들에 죽고디 가리바 담직 생활 항상 누구디 20생활 아니 죽고디 땡기지 생활 이제 저 열에서
Now for a correlation along the lines of the three kayas that you are after, this may be, the correlation can be made directly of Nirmanakaya with the commitment being, Sambhogakaya with the wisdom being, and Dharmakaya with the Samadhi being. This correlation is direct.
누구디 가래 누구디 누구 말게 아무 상기도 누구는 상기 아니 심정이 된체 지도를 쭉 남았단 말이야. 어서 제단다 제만 군이 뭐지를 봐. 이나양 오네디 누구를 대고 심정이 된체도 쭉 남았단 말이야. 제단다 제만 야면서 누리 잡아 나는 가가 지를 주지. 노소도 어디가 그래서
The Buddha achieved Buddhahood in Sambhogakaya form, and then went on to carry out the welfare of sentient life through Supreme Nirmanakaya form. The achievement of Buddhahood occurred in Sambhogakaya, and then for the well-being of sentient life, supreme emanations of the Nirmanakaya were performed. They are the same essence and same nature, but the Nirmanakaya is especially for the well-being of sentience. Now, if there are no others, then we will recite our closing prayers. No questions, all right. Now, don't forget to apply the three properties used in logical demonstration. These inform the very visualization practice. Now, when one has the logical demonstration or proof on hand, and through it reinforces one's conviction in the reality of what one is visualizing, then on the whole, all of the practice is enhanced. We have stabilization meditations, and we have analytic meditations. And the analytic meditation is quite profound for the reason that it allows for the conviction underpinning stable conception in the stabilization and visualization.
Oh yeah, 내가 좀 나는 되게 있어는 돼. Lamrim que terreno, tipo Lamrim chega toda do yang que o miúdo que ela tem né, que ela pelo que Chenmo 용하다. 아니 ela tem né, tipo 가라서 também que coisa do bem, 당에도 시도야. 네, 그게 내림나 소도 네, 많이 어디를 너는 뭐야 어쩌고
So now we recite for closing prayers the final stages of the Path to Enlightenment dedication prayer, so that realization drawn from the guidance of the great treatise on the stages of the path to realization arises in us, and that these realizations then lead to our actually engaging in the well-being of other sentient beings, and so too that we may see an end to the pandemic and other calamities with which we are beset. With these ends in mind, we recite our closing prayers.
Rangi Jijin Tobe Lamji Ne Shuja Tsewe Changwe Tabgi Rowe Yiji Mumba Seje Ne Gyewe Tenpa Yudin Zengyochi Tenpa Rinchen Shoji Majaba Chabkyan Nyamba Gyurwe Shote Ninji Chimbu Yira Dewa Yi Pende Telsen Sewa Shepan Shok Seje Gyawe Mijun Chene Amke Rimbe Gyam Tadu Namji Yila Peter Shin Gyawe Zeba Rimbu Gyongyuji Lamsan Rube Tunjin Luje Jin Gyegen Seje Medam Mimi Zera Kundu Gyawe Mabayi Namda Nanda Rewa Mangirichi Kanse Tebo Shola Shujuji Zujin Dula Tumba Deide Tuden Namgi Tadu Moje Jin Drashi Gyasu Chugun Jagyu Chi.
From my two collections, vast space that I have amassed, from working with that religious practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief lead for all those whose mind of wisdom I is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in loving compassion for all my lives. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teaching, so may I resolve the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means, God, from person compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path that I have discerned. May I uphold with his teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to great all sustaining beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted, bound with peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path of enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity, make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in their lives from the purest path raised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with sinful Mahayana virtuous practice, may always be assisted by enlightenment. May oceans of prosperity spread in me.
Dādi jīni sāve gyevādi tēnān rōvā gōnāi tāmbēnā kēkara jītā lōsāng chāvāi shēmbē tīmētī pōrēndō sējī shōgā kārē rāvē kōrē shīngāndē tēnā dēvā mādē kēmbē sīmā tīnzīng jāsūrī shāmbē sīdī bādē tēngyū chī Tita Kiamba Da Kundu Zambo Deyan Dejente Teta Kunje Jesu Dalo Je Gewa Tita Tanje Raksu Tuzam Shebe Gewa Tanje Ge Homa Gamla Shoktu Mapate Tage Gewe Zawa Digu Dyan Zambo Jeje Radu Sencho Rinpoche Mage Bana Gege Yewa Nyaba Nyaba Yama Kone Gundu. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Ozan Drapa to shine forever. In the land that circumflex Snowy Mountain, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful sinners and anything else will please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the great Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious Liskan ones of the three times, so that I may perform the noble bodies out of deeds. May the supreme jewel of bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Thank you. Oh, and if the weather's nice outside, then enjoy tea and lunch together.